What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're back here working on the black full motion Bora, so let's get to it. Now, if you haven't already checked the previous episodes in this car, I suggest you do so you kind of catch up to where we are at the moment. So here it is as it sits at the moment. So obviously timing chain's already in there, brand new rear main seal as well, intake manifolds on, valve covers on. But as you can see, I've got all the loose connections up here, wires, brackets and whatnot. Once I do the clutch and gearbox install, I want to go ahead and just start piecing the side of the engine back up. So thermostat housing will go back on, a couple of sensors, brackets, wires, hoses. Just the messy part of the install, really. But once the gearbox is on, that's kind of much the milestone for me to get today. So here we have the clutch kit. So it's an LUK brand dual mass flywheel kit with the brand new cylinder, new flywheel bolts as well. I'm going to be reusing the pressure plate bolts because they're not torque to yield. A couple of ratchets. Have to use one of these as well to line the clutch alignment tool from ECS. I use it for my other Mark IV. They're all the same. Alright, so now that the flywheel is in there and the holes line up to where they need to be, go ahead and grab your flywheel bolts. So I got brand new ones from Volkswagen. Already come pre-Loctited as well. I'm going to use a little bit extra Loctite on there for a bit of a security. And they are a triple square 10mm. So got some parts and brake cleaner. Give this a quick squirt. So as you can see, it does get quite dirty. Well, now it's time to fit the clutch and the pressure plate, and it turns out my clutch alignment tool doesn't fit. It's too big for the hole, so I've got to use my Ingenuity and ball joint splitter tool that fits right into the crank and through the clutch itself. So I'll be using that. Bit of a ghetto kind of style, but it works. So let's get to it. Just like that, the ball joint splitter is actually doing really well. It's nice and snug, so it's kind of centered everything. You don't want to have your clutch off-centered because then it makes it really hard to put your gearbox back on, because the spleen gear for the gearbox doesn't align with this one. So, alright, so all done by hand, obviously crosswise, so it sits nice and flat. I got my whiteboard and my white marker as well to mark all these as I torque them down, and then yeah, then it's done. Alright, so clutch is already in, torque down, ready to go. Now next step is chucking the gearbox. So I've already set up the engine brace here to support the engine. There's 2 points. So there's one point here which is supporting the engine, and the other point will be where I connect a chain and a sling, and I'll just put the gearbox on the ground, connect it up, and just lift it up and mount it. Here's the gearbox over here. It's a bit dirty, so I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up, and also chuck in the new slave cylinder as well. Once that is in there, then I can go ahead and chuck this back in, and we're one step closer to getting this more complete. Well, there's new versus old. Old is very dirty. Doesn't really spin as freely as the new one, which is great. But inside of the gearbox itself, it is just full of the organic matter from the clutch. So I'm going to go ahead and just give this a good clean up. Alright, so I'll clean it up as best I can without going ahead and pressure washing it and whatnot. Got heaps of the organic matter come out of it, so that's always a good thing. New cylinder is installed, 9mm bolts by 3, and I just use some Loctite on the existing bolts. Alright, moment of truth. I've got it all rigged up and ready to go. Let me show you how I've set it all up. So here we have the gearbox on my stool. and it's strapped up to a chain, and then the chain is to the engine brace, I'm going to call it. And then yeah, and then obviously the jack is under the engine as well, just for a second peace of mind kind of safeguard for me, really. So what I'm going to do is now, obviously now the engine is quite level, I'm going to actually lower the this side of the engine down just so I can fit the gearbox, and then once that's mounted I can put on the secondary mount, which is here. That goes on top of the gearbox on this spot here, and then these two holes, 1 and 2, will be for the in a transmission mount on this side, 1 and 2. Alright, let's get to it. Well, there you go, the engine's mounted in by itself. There's no support beam anymore holding up the engine and gearbox. So now that's gone ahead and tightened up, I need to go around and fix all the random bolts and brackets. Let me show you all these brackets up here. Vacuum lines, hoses, looms, shifter linkages, power steering lines to secure, starter mode needs to go in. So I've got a fair bit to go. I'm going to time lapse it, I reckon. It's going to take me a fair amount of time to piece back together again. So well, wasn't that fun? I've got maybe 70% of the wiring and the vacuum hoses in place for the secondary air pump and that stuff as well. But there's a few things I can't really do at the moment. Let me show you what I'm doing. So the power steering line won't mount up properly because the actual subframe is still off the car. So the power steering rack is just dropped down lower than it should be. So I can't do that just yet, which is giving me trouble with the secondary air pump as well, because this line here is meant to go underneath, up here, not over the top, but because it's so tight, because it's being pulled at the back, it's not really playing well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump underneath and do the subframe and the transfer case. and then that's under the car complete with a dog body mount as well, and that should push the engine forward enough, and then I can do the power steering line, the shifter end links, and then I can do the secondary air pump, which means I can do the hose up to where the throttle body is up here, and then I can do the ignition wires that go over that tube on top of it with the spark plugs. Once that's all done, then I can do the airbox, tube, mass sensor, battery tray as well, and the fan control module. I built that in as well, and the PCV line as well. I can't do yet until the airbox is mounted. So another time lapse, and let's get smashing the rest of this done, and hopefully we can put some fluids in and maybe get a first start. We'll see.
A few moments later.
Subframe is in, lesser control arms because it was just too long with the control arms. Remove the control arms, try to get him in there. It just kept fighting me for the last hour. And the power steering rack, it goes under the sway bar on one side, on the driver's side, to bolt up. And it wouldn't go under it. And God knows why, because it came out like that. So it's just, I've been fighting it the whole way. But it's in there now. Less, I might have broken my toolbox lid is over there, so yeah, it's fucked now. It is what it is. You get frustrated when you work on these cars, so now I can continue and try and finish this up quickly. guys, it's like 8 o'clock at night. Been at it pretty much most of the afternoon. Let me just show you guys what I'm up to so far. I think we made a lot of progress today, which I'm quite happy with, even though I'm quite buggered. What did we do today? We did the coil pack, the ignition wires, all the PCV lines, secondary air pump. We did thermostat housing, battery box, well, battery tray, air box. Did all the wires up here, all the loom, vacuum lines, coolant lines. We did subframe install. We did the transfer case. What else did we do? Oh yeah, shifter linkages, all the random bolts he took out, like he took out these bolts here. Don't know why, because you didn't need to take them out anyway. So yeah, so that's a lot of progress now. Next step is fluids. So I'm going to do oil, engine oil, and I'm going to do transmission fluid, and obviously a new filter for the engine as well. And then from there, we're going to give it a first crank. Not going to put any coolant in it because I'm just going to see if it starts first and see if it runs and idles fine. I'm not going to let it get up to temperature. Just solely want to see if it actually runs because, like I've said from the beginning, I haven't actually seen or heard this car run. I just took the guy's word for it. And going by from all the work that's been done on the car, I'm not very positive that it will run. But who knows, like, he might be a trustworthy guy, just a shit mechanic. Who knows? So we'll, yeah, let's get back into it. Chuck in some oil and fluids, and hopefully it starts. And there we have the old one, which looks like it was installed incorrectly. And there's the new one. Much better. Slap it in. Alright, so next in transmission, and there is the fill plug there. So the transmission fluid has kind of been drained as the guy took off the flanges. So I'm assuming it is empty. I may even just open up the bottom one just to make sure. 14mm Allen, which I have here. I thought it was a 17, but turns out it's just a 14mm, which is really weird. They also do come in these 16mm triple square with a security kind of dimple in the middle as well. So depending on what year, what box you have, depends on what kind of fitting you need for the plug. Alright, so the transmission fluid I'm using is the ProGear 75W90, and actually comes with a bit of an attachment as well. The nozzles on the caps do extend, but this has got a bit more reach to it, so it should kind of get me through the power steering line into the hole. 2.3 litres. This is a 2.5 litre, so I'm going to mark on the bottle where 200 ml is and just keep an eye on it when I'm filling it. Alright, so there you have it. It's 2.3 litres. I actually cheated and took 200 ml out of the bottle, so just the full bottle went in there, minus the 200 ml, so 2.3 litres. Yeah, went in quite easy with that attachment on the bottle, so it worked out pretty well. It's actually quite long, to be honest. What, 6-7 inches long, so it works out pretty well when the front end of the car is off. Obviously, if you're doing this when your front end's on, it's a bit harder. It's best to get a tube and just feed it down and feed the bottle from the top of the engine and kind of gravity feed it. But now that went easy. Next step is kind of grab the cluster, install the cluster, and chuck in a battery and see what it does. Alright, so kind of missed the first startup, and then the battery died because I got the battery from another car. It was quite dead anyway. Stole the battery out of the R32, started it up, purred fine. I'll even leave a little clip And well, luckily the missus was there. She started shouting, "Stop, stop, stop," and started pissing out oil. And I mean, everywhere. Now I was like, shit, it has to be something to do with the transmission. It has to be. No, it's engine oil. And it's my fault. I thought I already tightened it. The upper timing chain bolt tensioner pissed out oil everywhere. So, trying to stay positive, because I've been dreading this moment this whole time of this build. The engine runs smooth. It runs fine. There's no clicking. Just a little bit of oil from that tensioner. So if that's the only thing that's wrong with it, I'll take that as a bloody win. So I'm going to clean it up, put the bolt in, put the airbox back together again, give it another start, and hopefully it's now time to piece the thing back together again and sell it and move on to the next project. I'm so excited, guys. That's one less stress off my chest at the moment. Unbelievable. So good. So, battery's already in from the R32. We got some more oil in there. I've unhooked the auxiliary water pump, and I've taken the accessory belt as well, so any other coolant doesn't get pushed out any of the hoses that aren't obviously connected. So let's see if we can get this running the second time around. So we got power, and we got the water, the fuel pump primed. Right gear, clutch in. Let's see, hey. Okay, let's try it again. Nope. And third time lucky. Obviously you're going to get heaps of warning lights because the battery's been off and everything's been disconnected. But she's idling pretty well, and no leaks. That drips there just from the dipstick tube, because I had to disconnect it and suck up some oil because I may have overfilled it. But yeah, that is the second startup, I'm going to say. I'm really happy with it so far. So now that it's idling fine, I'm going to end this video here. The next episode will be the one where I'll be piecing it back together again, getting it on all four wheels and seeing whether it drives back and forwards. And yeah, go from there. Hopefully we can get it on the road and running again, and probably put this up for sale, get rid of it, and I can jump onto one of the next projects I have. Spoiler alert, I have more than one project coming up, so be sure to stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Like this video. That'd be awesome if you like it. If you're enjoying the content, let me know. If you're not enjoying the content, leave a comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are. And I will see you guys on the next video. So thanks for watching. Cheers.